Hi, my name is Sherry.
Greetings, I am Faye,
And we are Goddess Speak.
Right now, what we are focused on, Sherry and I, and a lot of the world, and especially the nation of the United States of America, is the race relations. And as a matter of fact, today we're going to see Selma with our families.
In a few minutes.
Yeah, so we got to hurry up. But anyway, and the race relations in the United States have, the race issue is coming up more and more, and this is a wonderful time for us to address it and speak honestly about how we feel about race and the offshoots of racial prejudices. What has happened in this world because of racial prejudiceness. So it's pretty interesting and sad that I don't know, it's rather emotional for me.
Understandably so. I pick up why you. It really is emotional, for anyone that says, get over it. There's no racism. You have a black president. He's multiracial, by the way. His mother is white. His father is black. Anyway, actually, I thought that racism was not stomped out when President Obama was elected, but I thought that we certainly had come a long way for him to be elected. But the unintended consequence, I believe, is that it brought out the dormant racism because the president's been blocked in every way. Not all of it's a conscious racism and not all of it's racism, but it's definitely out there. But I think it kind of started coming up again in 2008. And now, fast forward 2015, what's happening now? You want to talk about it?
You could talk about it.
So, what's going on now, just in case you're in the future watching this video, there's been protests going on because of police violence. It's happening to black youth, black male, at a disproportionate rate. And so there's protests going on. So you probably have a segment of people that believe all police are bad. They're not. You have a segment of people that believe all police are good. They're not.
Right.
The reality of it is there's bad apples in every tree. And the recent police violence was against Michael Brown, Eric Garner. The grand jury found nothing wrong, but the people saw that, these are two unarmed men that have been murdered. There's an argument that, hey, they shouldn't have resisted. They resisted. Whatever you want to call it, that's fine. Everyone, no, they shouldn't have resisted, but should they be dead? No. So here's the frustration. Here's why I think the protests are going on. Not over one incident.
Right.
We're talking about years, and you've got to look at the psychological effects of what it's like to be a black man and to be stopped disproportionately. And before I forget, I want to mention Mayor de Blasio of New York City and the police officers. From what I understand, I guess they're upset with him about several things, but one of the things is that he actually talked to his son, who's biracial, and told his son how to act when he is stopped by the police. No one should be mad at him for that. He is trying to teach his son how to survive. Right. And in case you don't understand, let me explain to you. Every black woman I know has had that talk with her black son. I've had that talk with my son. He's a great kid. But the fact is, he's going to be stopped. The odds are he's going to be stopped for no reason whatsoever. That's frustrating.
The reason is driving while black.
And that would be the reason.
I've spoken to mine. I have 3 sons.
Yeah, so he might have a new Mustang, get stopped. In the nice neighborhood, get stopped. Right. You're a human being. Wouldn't that frustrate you to be stopped over and over again, or to know people that are stopped over and over again? What happens is it becomes frustrating. Right. So that's why we have to teach our sons, hey, even though you know you've done nothing wrong, you can't talk back to the police officer, because the police officer has the gun and the badge, the law behind. So that's why we have this talk. I tell my son, you get pulled over, have your license and registration ready, period. And after that, you're respectful to the officer, and the objective is to keep him alive. That's why we have the talk.
Definitely.
And so again, Mayor de Blasio, we understand. We had to have that talk, and I'm sure Mayor de Blasio's wife had to explain to him why to have that talk. So it's not to say all police are bad; they protect and serve. I believe that wholeheartedly. No, we are against violence of any kind. But people need to just understand the frustration behind the protests.
Right. It's just fact. It's just a fact. And if you were just open to the truth, you would realize it. That it's just a fact that in the United States of America, that's what happens. And racism is a pretty strong controlling factor in most everything that goes on in this country, in my opinionation.
And okay, if you want facts, you want numbers, here they are. In New York City, 88% of the stop and frisk, so to speak, were innocent. People were innocent. That's 88%. And this is a 2013 statistic I have here. In 2013, over 191,000 New Yorkers were stopped. 56% of those were black. So there you go. There's some math for you. And I'm not sure the black population makes up, 30%? I'm not sure. 30% in America maybe, but
right.
They don't make up 56%. And, there was a CNN special on about a month ago, Soledad O'Brien. Soledad O'Brien, love her. Special report, Black and Blue. It was a Black in America, Black and Blue special, and it was just showing it showed this. They've done a study. Their study's been done that it is a fact. Black people are stopped more, black boys, than any other race of people. And in this study, one of the kids, he's a student. I think it was the Bronx. It was either the Bronx or Brooklyn. He had been stopped and frisked over 100 times. Innocent. How would you feel? Think about that. I'm sorry. It's so easy for people that don't want to face this pain, because it's real pain. It's so easy to just brush it off. Well, he shouldn't have done this. Well, he shouldn't have done that. And that's kind of really one of the things that's wrong today, is we've swept things under the rug and brushed them off and ignored them. The real issues.
It's time to bring them to the surface and talk about them and heal. It's time for healing.
It's not about blaming. No. It's about healing.
It's healing.
And to heal, we know we need to bring in history. We've all got to understand where we've been as human beings or as a country to understand where we're going. Right. And movies like Selma, the one we're about to go see, telling us the story of the Civil Rights Movement. And this is a story, this just happened, 50, I don't know.
Yeah.
Is it the 50-year anniversary?
50 years, yeah.
It's 50 years ago, like 2 years before I was born. This isn't a long time ago. No. When 2 years before I was born, I think, is when the Voting Rights Act was approved. So, my parents were allowed to vote just before I was born. This is not an ancient problem. And what we're going to explore a lot too is the psychological effects, because for those of you who may see a black boy as a threat, you may see the sagging pants, or maybe like Rudy Giuliani wants us to address the black on black crime. Right. Well, you can't address that without going deep, and we're willing to go there.
But generally, people of all races disproportionately kill their own race more than any other race that they kill. I mean, that happens with whites, right. Asians, all races, right. Native Americans.
So it's not a race thing.
No, it's a people thing.
Yes. And you could also say socioeconomic is a problem. Is there more crime and violence in poverty stricken areas? Yes.
Yep.
Why? Because there's poverty,
Frustration.
drugs that numb the pain.
Yeah, and where do the drugs come from?
Where do the guns come from?
Right. We don't produce them. We don't circulate them. I mean, we circulate them at the lowest level, but I mean, we don't have access to bring them to our neighborhoods.
So we're not trying to play a blame game. We're trying to provide information. It's important to have information because there's a lot of judgment against other people. I think there's a lot of race judgment, not just white judging black. There's black judging white. There's Indian judging Latino. People have been doing it since the beginning of humanity, and we've got to stop because, again, we're more the same than different. But we got to look at why certain things happen. We got to look at the psychology of it. Being a black person in America, we've been free now. Oh, I'm sorry. We've been free now since 1865.
Yeah.
Then after 1865, well, they wouldn't let us vote.
No, not until 100 years later.
100 years later, before we were looked at as smart enough.
Yeah. And we weren't.
They
just gave in because it was a huge movement that included a lot of people that were white and clergy and
yes,
stars.
A lot. And again, black people, white people, we did this together.
Yay.
Did you know that black people weren't allowed to get an education, especially during slavery?
Yeah.
There was none of that. So once slaves were set free, then we could begin. But there was segregation.
Right.
Black people as a race were not given the same opportunities as their white counterparts. And therefore,
supplies, sources, money, so.
And this went on. I think slavery, let's see, where's my notes? That's 12 generations, but 245 years is about 12 generations. So imagine how far behind a people would be after being enslaved 12 generations without any education. Families were broken apart during slavery. Yeah. So I've talked to people that say, well, why is the black family? Well, black families were broken apart when black people were brought over from Africa. They were broken apart while they were on the plantation trying to have a family. Mothers would have sons, and then they would get sold off.
And husbands and wives married one another, and they would separate the husband. They would sell the husband to another plantation or the wife. It just
physiology that
turned into psychology.
Yes. And when someone keeps telling you you're not enough, it becomes a conditioning, and people feel not enough. And when people feel not enough, all sorts of negative things can happen.
Right. And the people that were teaching the people that they were not enough were feeling that they were not enough as well. And that's why they were able to tell the slaves that they weren't enough, because they felt that they weren't enough. And it just, the cycle just repeats itself. It's horrible. So I mean, we were all brainwashed to believe that we were not enough, under the guise of the white person having a superiority complex. That's my opinionation. So what we're working on now, self-love, which would eliminate that. You love yourself, you accept yourself, you see the humanity in one another, and you spread the humanity and the love and the joy and the healing and the peace. You spread it. Love, the joy, the healing, and the peace. You spread it. Spread it.
Yeah, we had to break that up because that was getting too long and deep, and we don't want to come across as racist at all, because we're not. We believe that we're all one.
Well, I think everybody has some racism in them. I mean,
Depends on how you define racism.
That's the
though.
way we grew up. Well, how do you define racism?
I don't know. For sure. Like, to me, I think of it as a hate. But I think that's what the word means. Maybe it doesn't. I think what most people feel is not a hate, but intolerance for the other because we don't understand the other. I think that's different than racism. A lot of it's just ignorance. It's just ignorance. I don't know.
I have been grappling with this issue as of late with myself, trying to figure out. Well, I know sometimes I generally like, oh, white people, that's what they do. You know, and
maybe you're right. Maybe
I don't know. I think so, but I don't. It's. I'm just trying to figure it out. I don't want to put hate into it. I don't know. But sometimes it is just like what white people do. Sometimes it is just like what black people do. Sometimes it is. So is it like a stereotypical
I think it's a stereotype, and I think it's cultural. The way we are.
Right.
Yep.
So
the way we are is cultural conditioning. So I don't think you can say it's a race. You know, we may think there are real races, obviously KKK. That's racist. But if someone kind of puts like, ooh, black people tend to be loud. I think that's cultural. I think that depends on where you grew up and your personality.
Yeah. Because we're loud.
I'm just loud. We're lively, right? Black people, we colorful. Black people, we colorful, right?
Yeah. Most of them. Yeah.
Okay, most of we color. That's, I don't know. It's
I'm talking about Sherry and I.
Yes.
Yeah, we loud.
Yes.
We loud and lively.
We are lively. But my nieces and nephews are biracial. I don't feel like I have a prejudice against any race. If I have a judgment, it's against ignorance. And I just think that's the whole problem. Most of the problem.
We're going to feature in our dialogue with you a guest goddess of the week. And this week, our guest goddess is
Maya Angelou. The great Maya Angelou.
The phenomenal.
She's, I'm sure you've heard of her. She's was a fantastic writer, poet, educator, dancer, actor, entertainer, civil rights leader, phenomenal woman, Maya Angelou. Quick fact, did you know that she went through a long period in her childhood where she did not speak? She was mute. It was after she had had a terrible experience where she was raped by a man at age 7, I believe it was 7 or 8. Anyway, a few days after that happened, the man came up dead. And she felt that her words killed that man. She realized in her young mind. That young. She realized the power of words, but in her young mind, she felt that she had him killed so she wouldn't speak. They were calling her mute and all that. And then finally, but she loved to read. She always loved to read, as you could tell. And finally, she had a teacher named, I don't know if she was a teacher or not for sure. Anyway, Mrs. Flowers told her, Maya, you don't love poetry. And she did love poetry. She said, you've got to speak it. She said some other things like, you've got to feel the way it rolls off your tongues, the hum of your lips. It was something like that. But she would see her, every time she would see her, she would say, Maya, you don't love poetry. And that made her, she said, you got to speak it. Yeah. And that, Mrs. Flowers, thank you, made Maya speak. Yes. And Maya, in that moment, realized that she could speak. She had just chosen not to. Yes. She had just chosen not to.
But you know what I find is extremely just advanced for her as an individual was that she, in her young years, after this man had defiled her, and she knew it was wrong what he did to her, after he did all that, she felt bad that he was killed for the wrong thing that he did to her. So, I mean,
passion at that young age.
And love.
Wow. She embodied all of it.
Yay, Maya.
Wisdom, love.
Maya Angelou.
Truly a phenomenal woman. Thanks for watching. We have so much more to say, but we gotta go.
Gotta go.
But we'll be back.
We'll be back.
Please leave comments. This is a discussion. You know, agree, disagree. Don't be afraid to disagree.
Don't.
This is how we all grow as people, is to have an exchange of ideas and information.
Yes. But you need to know that we love you, we bless you, and we appreciate you as we behold the genius, love, and positivity in you.
You are enough.
Yes.
If our conversation resonates with you,
And if it resonates with you, tell others, and then they'll tell their friends, and they'll tell their friends, and so on and so forth.
and so forth in infinity.
That's right.
All right, we gotta go.
Pieces.
Peace. Love you. Mwah.